have these different schools of thought. I've come across people who are strong believers of value investing and they keep looking for value stocks. And then there are investors who are willing to pay a premium to buy growth stocks. And then there are ones who are willing to take that risk of taking a turnaround story into their portfolio, and with an event of maybe change in management or some trigger by which they believe that management would be able to turn around that company. So in our flagship product, which is the India Opportunity or AAA IOP as it's known in the market, what is really the mix that you create, or is there a mix at all?
Well, as a house, we strongly believe only in one thing, which is growth. As I said, we breathe growth. Life is all about growth. If there is no growth, there is no life. Correct? Even the value stocks, they perform when the growth comes back into that value stocks. So say for example, very recently, say commodity stocks or utility stocks, they went up because there is a hope of growth came back into that earnings. Am I right? So we strongly believe in growth. And of course, that growth you need to buy at a right price, the right valuations. You will never able to buy the best of the management and best of the governance and best of the balance sheet at so-called cheap valuations. And optically cheap is always actually expensive, in my view. And optically expensive is actually cheap in the long term. It's all about your horizon. If I'm buying a company with a compounded earnings growth of 20%, and if I tell you it is a compounded free cash flow growth of 15 to 20%, do you know what and how much valuation I should give to that company? At times, even 50 PE is cheap for that company. Because the free cash flow, underlying free cash flow, what it is throwing, and or underlying the operating cash flow, what that company is throwing is huge. On the contrary, if I give you a company which is optically looks like 11 times price to earning multiple, but with a 5% earnings growth, mind you, it is less than 12% nominal GDP growth, actually you are buying that company intrinsically at a much higher valuation than what optically it looks like. Because it is going to underperform even the GDP growth over the next 5 years. Are you getting a point?
Right.
So, never get carried away by just the traditional benchmark of price to earning. What is important is that your time duration. And you are buying the enduring businesses. Correct? In the longer the time horizon and the longer the cycle of that growth, both earnings as well as cash flow, actually makes the so-called optically expensive PE cheap in the long term. So that's how one needs to look at the valuation. So we buy only those businesses which have a solid growth characteristics over next 2, 3, 4, 5 years.